It's time for another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina, featuring industry outlooks, panel discussions on trending topics, and interviews with business executives, community leaders, and government officials. And now, coming to you from the Drum Creative Studio, here's your host, longtime South Carolina business publisher, Rick Jenkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and as always, we are coming to you from the Drum Creative Studio. I'm glad you found us. We're going to be talking about workforce a little with this guy right here. This is Dr. Larry Miller. Dr. Larry Miller is the Vice President of Learning and Workforce Development at Greenville Technical College. Dr. Miller, welcome to the show.
Rick, thanks for having me.
It's good to have you here. I tell you what, we're going to talk about that big, beautiful building that opened up not too long ago, I believe, a month or two ago. The Prisma Health Center for Health and Life Sciences.
Yeah, wonderful space.
Yes.
Just opened it in August of this year.
Right.
Been planning and building on that for about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Space is about 130,000 square feet, 3.5 stories. A lot to talk about with it. I think the best thing that I want to highlight, just first of all, for all your listeners, is it emphasizes our partnership in healthcare workforce. One of our biggest areas. We've got over 10 programs in that School of Health Sciences, training everybody from nurses to medical imaging specialists to occupational therapist assistants to PTA, physical therapy assistants. Lots of grads coming out of that school and those programs.
You know, I have seen the building. It is the largest building on any of your
Yes.
4 campuses. You got
correct.
4 campuses, right?
We have
Am
a
I
main
correct?
campus, 3 satellites,
Yep.
and 4 centers.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
So you got a whole lot going on. Greenville Tech, y'all are spread out a little bit of everywhere, but it's your biggest building.
Yes.
How it opened in August,
Yes.
right? And how long has it been in the works? When was it announced? You know what? We're going to have this great new center. How far back was that announced?
The initial planning for it started as far back as 2012.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And we knew that the building that we were replacing, which is the University Transfer Building, opened in 1973. So also the year I was born. So we're both
It was
getting long
time.
in the tooth. Yes.
It was
There
time.
was time to replace it.
Right.
But it took about 4 years from once we had funding in place. We started creating a team of architects, designers, a benchmarking team at the college to do all the space planning work. We ended up visiting a number of different states and programs around the country to see best practices. We wanted to grab their ideas and then try to one-up them and build the best center we could here in Greenville for our students and our community.
You know, this building would not have been able to happen, of course, without the partnership that you all have
Yes.
with Prisma Health. I believe that they contributed $1.5 million to the project. Tell me how that partnership was established and how it has been working.
Yeah, that's a great question. So Prisma is our largest employer of our grads out of our health sciences program. So we've had a long partnership with them, but more than just the money that went in to make the building happen, our partnership runs so deep that we actually have a shared employee. So they've given us grant funds to hire an advisor who works half-time on our funds to advise students, half-time on their funds to support and inform our students about things that are happening in the hospital that they can make themselves aware of, take advantage of in terms of career planning and exploration. So Prisma, as we all know, is a huge organization. I think locally somewhere around 12 to 14,000 employees. So it's hard for our graduates, our students who are matriculating, to navigate that system, and that's why that shared employee really helps. They also sponsor 30 scholarships for our nursing students. They've expanded those scholarships to other programs recently. So I would say that at every level, we have a pretty deep partnership, ending with the sign on the building.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that that is a great partnership from the sound of things.
Yeah.
And you mentioned students and graduates. I believe that this building is meant to service about 600 graduates a year.
That's correct.
What are those graduates going to walk us through that building?
Yeah,
Tell us
okay.
what we would see if we went in.
Great question. So when you come in the main entrance, first of all, you're in an all-glass vestibule that raises 3 stories unobstructed all the way up. That was deliberate in the design because it forces your eyes to ascend, and we wanted to give students a sense of ascending with their career and educational goals. So that's the avocation we were going for. When you walk past those doors, you come in the main entrance. To your left, you'll see an active learning lab with a living plant wall in front of that. That's fancy education jargon to say this is a classroom where students sit in pods in groups. They have their own glass whiteboards. They have their own laser projector and screen. They're assigned in the class to create their own content, and they can broadcast that to the classroom. And it takes our faculty from being the sage on the stage to being a guide on the side.
Right.
So
Love it.
that's on your left. Just next to that is a proudly serving Starbucks cafe. We've got Chick-fil-A on board, so food and drinks are
What else
on
do you
hand.
need, right?
That's right. If you go to the right, we have a nice soft seating and lounge area. We're a commuter campus, we know that, but we are also laser focused on our students succeeding. So we had a strategy when building this facility that we wanted our students to stay. And stay means come before class. That means stay between your classes. That means stay after class. If you do those things, you're more likely to connect with your faculty members, with your staff, and with your peers. If you connect, you're going to form those relationships that will lead you to complete. And if you complete, we already know our stats. We're going to get into economic impact in a minute, but our stats show us when our students complete, they're successful both with their career goals and their educational goals.
That's right. Talking about building that wonderful facility, was Prisma involved in the way the building looked, the planning of it, the architectural
Sure.
piece of it? Did you all work together on what that was going to look like?
In certain elements. So certainly where their signage goes, they're very involved with those decisions. But actually inside the lab, so in the imaging suite and the Rad Tech suites, those suites, we really partnered with their leadership, especially on equipment procurement. We wanted to make sure that our students were learning on the equipment that they were likely to practice with when they entered the field. So, yeah.
Can you share who the architectural firm was you worked with?
Yeah, it was McMillan Pasden Smith, and the lead architect on the project was Jeff Tiddy.
Yeah. Great firm. And how about the construction company?
Construction was Harper Construction, who did an excellent job.
They always do an excellent job.
They went above and beyond. They were hiring our students in the construction process, some of our grads from our architectural engineering technology program, and even beyond that. They were a phenomenal partner, and the design firm was PMC.
Great.
Yeah.
Always like to when we have conversations like this, I always like to give those guys a little bit of love.
Agreed.
They do such great work. People see that building and then they take it for granted.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of folks that are behind that building that made that beautiful facility happen.
Thanks for pointing that out.
No worries. I'm going to get you out of here on this. Healthcare innovation is moving at lightning speed. It never stops. And one of the things you need with a facility like this is to be up to speed and up to date with innovation.
Yeah.
That could get outdated fairly quick. How do you handle something like that?
Well, I think that's a great question. So first of all, I would say that the number one thing we wanted to do is just make sure that we're building our talent pipeline for the next generation of our healthcare workforce. And that meant we had to knock down barriers to STEM-related fields. So when you come in that building, what you'll see is we've put learning on display. And what we mean by that is we've carved out, for instance, glass cutouts into our laboratory prep rooms so that you can see what's actually happening in those spaces. So a student who used to identify myself as I'm not a math person or I'm not a science person might generate some questions and some curiosity about what we're seeing there. So we want to attract them to come and take that class because we know they're going to be successful if they do. So that's one of the little pieces of technology that's not the bleeding edge thing, but it's going to impact our workforce. Yeah. I'll say on the flip side, we do have simulation medicine, and we've got some amazing digital cadaver tables that are in the space now. The physical components of those, I think, are going to be durable for probably 10 to 15 years. We do have software upgrades, so as the technology gets better, but there are real cadavers donated to science inside those tables, Rick. And if you were with me right now, we could open one up and dissect it.
Okay, well, I'm glad that I'm not there doing that, but I got to ask, what is a digital cadaver table?
So it kind of looks a little bit like a fancy air hockey table.
All right.
All right. But inside of it is a ton of software that literally allows our students to rotate a real human body that has been sliced micrometer by micrometer all the way through, and you can dissect that individual. There's a lot of other things that go in there, but it's a great way to teach gross anatomy without the smell.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end an interview than that. Teaching gross anatomy without the smell. I love it, folks. That is Dr. Larry Miller. He is the Vice President of Learning and Workforce Development at Greenville Technical College. If you get a chance, drive by the campus and check out that beautiful facility, the Prisma Health Center for Health and Life Sciences.